Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And on this episode, we're going to talk about how to stop self silencing and express your feelings without the spiral. So, this episode is definitely going to be a downloader for you if you tend to white knuckle it. So, you are just really trying to grit and bear it and not say the thing because you're on vacation or you're having a good time and it's the weekend and you don't want to ruin it. That's typically the vibe I notice in myself in the past. Or you are just so good at holding it in until boom, it just all comes out. You might be even telling yourself mentally or out loud, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And really, it is a big deal. You feel it. And ultimately, typically, it just kind of blows up in your face. I know from lots of experience. So if that is you, then this is definitely the episode to keep forever and ever and repeat. And if you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a relationship coach and I love helping my overachieving, high performing girlies, whether you're slaying in the corporate realm, you have letters behind your name, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you've run businesses, you are the GSDer, and while you are climbing and succeeding and killing it out there, you are secretly being killed inside by your overthinking, overanalyzing, worrying about the other shoe dropping, walking on eggshells, and you are making up fake scenarios even though you're with a really good person. If that is you, then sister, you are in the right spot. And if you are really committed to stopping the silencing in the Healing Girl Gang, by the time this episode drops, the training inside the Healing Girl Gang, which is my membership and community, we are going to go into the education, the why, and the what all around communication. That's the topic for this month. And I love giving the action steps, and that's all in the Healing Girl Gang. And the training is tomorrow, so make sure you check out. Link is down below. So that being said, let's dive into this whole self-silencing game that we tend to do. And for me, I just want to share that this definitely was a huge breakthrough and breakdown. It was a breakdown. Let's be honest. The breakdown happens in order for the breakthrough to occur. And when I think about self-silencing and we're holding back expressing our feelings, for me this is all about expression. Expression's kind of the key word. And as far back as I can remember, I have had issues with self expression. And part of that, I'll just use this as an example, is clothing. And I went to Catholic school, also super funny. There is a picture of me with this wicked bowl cut. Wicked. I mean, okay, also the backstory with the bowl cut is the crush I had, Nicholas Corrado. You know what? If somebody's out there and a really good sleuth, I have tried so hard to find him and I can't. And I just feel like y'all are just pretty good at the internet. So, Nicholas Corrado. I had the biggest crush on him, huge, and he had like a bit of a bowl cut. Okay, I cannot make this make sense, but I thought, okay, if we had even saying this out loud is so embarrassing. I can't believe I was thinking this. If I have the same haircut, he will like me. Oh my gosh, if Craig was in this room, he would just be what is wrong with you? I don't know. I just thought I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. So yeah, your girl got a bowl cut and it's so funny. I remember like literally sitting there like Dumb and Dumber getting the haircut. And I don't know, I like wanted it to be shorter and the barber, it was a barber. My dad took me to the barber. It wasn't even at a salon. And honestly, I don't think any kind person at a salon would be like, that's a good idea. Anyway, my dad was cheap. We went to the barber. What can I say? And I remember saying, I think I want it shorter. And the barber was like, I can take it off, but I can't put it back on. Anyway, so that was like my maybe biggest, craziest expression of self-expression with my hair. So I don't know. I went to a private school, y'all, Catholic school. I did not. We wore uniforms. I wore a uniform to school all the way until ninth grade. Okay. It was crazy. And so for me, I didn't really see the value or importance of expression in that way. And in fact, it was so easy. It was so easy to just put on the uniform and like just go to school. And I'm sure that there are people out there that could definitely talk me through. And also just from a self-expression standpoint, I didn't really learn how to self-express because those clothes were just there. The uniform was there. So clothing was something that I didn't realize until now, well into my 40s, that this is actually kind of important. And while I can also just say a good argument that, well, we were traveling, if you didn't know this, my husband and I were traveling on the road in a tiny home in an RV for 3 years. I had to really get good at a capsule wardrobe. And I will say this, changing that lifestyle to the RV life was so powerful for so many reasons, and one of them being I didn't have a lot of clothes. Like I had my friend come over when we were downsizing to get stuff into the RV, and I felt like it was so brutal. I felt so like almost attacked even though I asked for her help. And literally the space that I had was so small. I couldn't fit a wardrobe in there. So I had to, for the sake of size, pure size, I had to get really good at a capsule wardrobe. And what I will say is that I have definitely learned that reducing my overwhelm and overthinking, a huge part of that in my day-to-day anxiety is by having a capsule wardrobe. So we've landed in Denver, we're back. And one thing that I'm playing with and I'm really excited about is getting more fun pieces. I'm also playing. So one thing that I will say is in my capsule wardrobe. In fact, this is like kind of part of it, not sponsored. But I am looking at a fun rental kind of thing where I can get some fun pieces and get some new things to freshen up my capsule wardrobe. More on that soon, probably. But I absolutely can say that part of being able to have selection of a capsule wardrobe and making it such an easy way for me to reduce my overthinking, overwhelm. Literally, this is like why Steve Jobs wore just a black pants and black turtleneck. It was because he wanted to use his brain space for all the amazing things he was doing with Apple. So in many ways, being able to reduce your overwhelm by just having simple things that you can wear that you just know all go together is so important. And you also, it's part of this fun thing for me is exploring this form of self-expression, and some of you have that down packed. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm aware that many of you are fashionistas. I love that for you. And there is for me what I've noticed, a gap in being able to self-express. And also I'm just thinking of a client of mine who is definitely a fashionista. I'm sure she's going to listen to this and report back to me. And one thing that, even though she has a lot of self-expression with makeup and her clothing, at the same time, other methods of expression are not okay or were not okay. And so there's a huge contrast in her expression in clothing and makeup, but then she was definitely held back, as I was, in the rigidity of what was okay and not okay in her household. So self-expression in some areas was okay, but overall maybe a bit stunted. So let's dive into this whole piece around self-silencing. And this to me really correlates because if you have been, for me, I have lived a very sheltered childhood. Self-expression was just not okay. Growing up Catholic, growing up as an immigrant child, it was like you just followed the rules. So if that was something similar, maybe you're not a first generation immigrant, maybe you just had really strict rules, or maybe your rules were self-imposed. That is also true. So maybe you didn't have these explicit rules in your family. Maybe you just had a lot of pressure internally, or your family was supportive, but you internalized a lot of this. Okay, I got to do it right, has to be right. So when it comes to expression in our relationships, why is this important and why do we want to learn how to express? And for me, and what I've noticed with my clients is this is about showing your authentic self. Okay. This is not about just bleh things out. This is about showing your authentic, your true self. And I'd rather even just say your vulnerable self. And if you are not used to expressing yourself in any way, shape, or form, you don't get those muscles used to it, it can feel really bold. It can feel really risky. It can feel really forward. So that for me is going to sound so silly. Like wearing red to me is such a bold move. And I personally don't like a lot of red, but that's just me. But that if you are not used to vulnerability and authenticity in your relationship, and by the way, there's a difference. And some of you are, this is going to resonate because I have this part in my expression as well. That's not performative. Because I know some of you out there are like, I say what I want. I do. I'm a boss. And that's not, to me, that's performative. That is not this authentic revealing the inside of the truffle, if we can call it that. And this also makes me think of a one-on-one client of mine who recently was going through something difficult, and she was able to express her feelings without the spiral and ask for the support that she needed from her partner. And her partner, ooey gooey, totally held the space and showed up for her in the way that she needed. And one of the things that I can definitely say in our one-on-one work together, which is when we look deeper in one-on-one work, it's because you are multifaceted, multidimensional. You're not just here out of the blue. You didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. When we have this issue of self-expression, it's oftentimes, a lot of times, if you're this deep with me now, it's because we cut ourselves off to be perfect. Perfect. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So when I look at when we are holding ourselves back from expression, a lot of times it's this perfection of what we think we should say or how it should look or what the relationship should like, even the conversation, because we want to fit in. We want to make sure that what we say is right, we're saying the right thing, or it's in the lens of perfection, we diminish our feelings, we diminish the want or the need, or we try to, another method that perfectionism kind of eliminates or negates self-expression is that we try to mold ourselves. We dilute ourselves down into this version that we think the other person's going to like. In fact, this made me think of how I've noticed recently that there's a lot of Gen Zers and 20-somethings like literally wearing the same outfit. Like they'll be out and about and literally wearing the same thing. And PS, like I love twinning. Like that's super fun. But I feel like I'm just noticing this more and more that there's like a lack of self-expression because maybe they just want to fit in. They want to wear the cool thing. And I look at some of the influencers or people that I follow on the internet, and they are just, it's not even what they're wearing. It's their bold, risky, forward way of expressing themselves. And while I'm using a lot of fashion today, it's also how can you be bold and how can you be exposing and how can you be risky and forward with your own emotions. And the reality is, here's the funny thing, the more that you truly are yourself, the more that you are authentic in your relationship, the more vulnerable you are, the more they fall head over heels for you. Literally, I can just remember so many pivotal points with Craig where I thought, man, I just want to be really honest and say the scary thing. And it literally made him just even more head over heels. And I say this from experience. I say this from working with clients that the more you are yourself, the more they fall in love with you. And one of the things, again, that we're going to cover around communication this month, tomorrow, don't miss it, in the Healing Girl Gang around the why is that perfection is a form of protection. That's all it is. It is clunky armor that weighs you down. And when we look at perfection as protection, protection in relationship, when we protect ourselves, it's rejection. And if you think about this, if we protecting ourselves and it's rejecting connection, that's like, it's like a catalyst. That's why you spiral. The spiral is less about the thing that you are thinking is important, and it's more about this fear of rejection, which I talked about in the last episode here of the podcast. But this is a big topic, and this is just the surface level. And we dive more into that in the Healing Girl Gang. So, that being said, Healing Girl Gang training is tomorrow, tangible action plan. And in the Healing Girl Gang, I answer questions from the girlies. And this question, looks like it's from Sana. I love that name. How unique. Okay, Sana's question. And the reason I'm answering her question is she asked it and she's in the Healing Girl Gang. So when you're in the Healing Girl Gang, I answer questions on the podcast. Okay, Sana says, "Hey girlies, so glad to be here. So glad you're here too, honey. My boyfriend and I got into a random fight 2 days ago. He said some really nasty things to me. We are currently in an LDR, and all we have is FaceTime and calls to be close. We also make plans to see each other every 2 months. But in this fight, he said to me, we don't have anything in common, which is not entirely true. I thought that was really hurtful. Then this morning I called to check in on him. He was furious and misunderstood what I said. He calls me controlling and says I am always changing my narrative, which I don't see. He hasn't slept the entire night because he is up playing Mortal Kombat, and I also made a comment about how it's a weekend thing, which he completely misunderstood and said I was controlling him and telling him when to do what. I don't see that. It was a general comment and it wasn't coming from a place of judgment. And he was also telling me that he can't live up to my standards, which I have no clue about. I'm so confused. He's always telling me that I don't let him talk or share when he tries to. I either cut him off or say yes, same, or just give unsolicited advice, but we are conversing. How else do I show that I'm listening or participating? He gets so mad at me for this behavior of mine. I am not entirely sure what I need to do. He called me mentally ill today, which I thought was super hurtful. I never call him names or belittle him ever because it's hurtful and I don't want my words to hurt someone intentionally or unintentionally too. How else do I communicate? What am I missing? What are the questions I need to ask myself to not be controlling this way? Whatever I do for him is not coming from a malicious intent. It's the openness of love. I'm feeling that from you. He isn't getting that. It's hurtful, and now I am too scared to even call or talk to him or even accept his calls, lest I say something to start a fight or trigger him. I'm exhausted. Wow, Sana, this is a lot. Okay. So, first thing, are you coming to the training? That's going to be important. We're going to talk about misunderstandings. There's also opportunities for coaching. But what I will say is there's obviously a miscommunication here and a misunderstanding. Fuck. All right, Sana. Okay. So, first question that I have is, are you coming to the training? Because this is all about communication, and there's also opportunities for coaching in there. So I'm going to there's a couple of pieces in here that that we want to look at. And one of them is he's giving you some feedback, right? He is mentioning over and over that there is this piece where he feels like he's being controlled. And I want you to ask yourself, do you feel any charge with that? And is there any piece of that that feels, I don't want to say true necessarily, but like what about that has some charge to it? And I say that because whether it's true or not is, I don't want to say irrelevant, because this is more of a reflection of how he feels. And whether you are controlling or not, that's something to be looked at more closely. And ask yourself, am I trying to get a certain outcome from him? And in what you're saying, I'm trying to be open. And again, it's really hard to say because this is communication between a couple. And what I like to do with one-on-one clients is really understanding your intent and what's the energy behind it and who are you being, because this is the same thing as me looking at you and saying, you look so great today. Okay. You look so great today. 5 words. That's one way of saying it versus, you look so great today. So technically, the same 5 words, you look so great today, but the first version has a different feeling. Second version definitely has a different feeling, right? So whether or not it's the technicality of the word, to me is less important than where it's coming from. And then it's also how is that interpreted, and really this is also why when he's giving you that feedback around you're being controlling or you're saying something controlling, that it's really about how are you saying your piece with him, and is it coming from a place of love and an openness with love. I'll just also call myself out so radically. In fact, this happened this morning with my husband on our walk, where I gave him some feedback. He's having some back pain. I've been teaching yoga for years, and I'm like, well, maybe you should do some yoga, not just when it hurts. And didn't come off well, right? Was my intention with love? 100%. Was I saying it from a place of, I know what I'm talking about? Of course. And I can just even admit and call myself out right now. Maybe I'll let him watch this. I was saying it from a place of annoyance and honestly fear. I don't like that he's hurting. I want him to feel better, right? So technically, am I saying the right thing to him? Of course. And also, how I'm saying it is also another thing. And some pieces here that are something to really explore with him. And I'm also saying, I'm going to say this and just call myself out. Have I said nasty things to somebody and it was not my best foot forward? 100%. And I would definitely want to clean up and get clear on, it's not okay to call each other names or to be demeaning. So that would be something within your communication as you revisit this, as you should. And I understand that you don't want to start a fight or trigger him, but believe me, nothing good is going to happen from just ignoring the problem. This is like if we ignore a cut that we have on our arm and we just use spit and dirt to cover it up, nothing good happens when we just ignore things. So at some point, you're going to want to uh, talk about what's happening and also get to the bottom of what this conversation really is about. Because one quality for all of us, and men specifically, is that they do want freedom. I'm not saying that they get to do whatever the H they want and fra la 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 la, but it sounds like to me that he's wanting some expression, and there's a misunderstanding and a miscommunication between both of you. And I'm also not here to say one's right and one's wrong. I can totally see that you are hurt and your feelings are valid, and this really kind of depends on how you want to explore this with him, for sure. But one thing you want to do is you're going to want to revisit this. You want to lovingly look at, even if things are said with intention and heart, how we say things does matter. And then the last piece that kind of feels really important is what is the disagreement actually about? Because I guarantee you it's not about Mortal Kombat. Guaranteed. This is about something deeper. So that's my recommendation. You're in the Healing Girl Gang, so I hope to coach you through this more inside. And I'm sending you all lots of love. Be gentle with yourselves. Stay open. I love you.